But also, we don't not only have toxic masculinity, we also have toxic femininity, its counterpart. And in this case, toxic femininity will exhibit, among other features, something like victim consciousness, which is the exact opposite of Krishna consciousness, by the way. In a situation where we may not be the abused party, but actually the abusers, although we present as the abused ones. No? Instead of carrying our own cross with full responsibility, instead of dealing with the tragic sense of life, as sometimes it's called, with dignity and courage, sometimes we become experts of imposing tragedies at others by us playing the victim ourselves, or by over-identifying, as we already mentioned also, with other victims in an attempt to transfer their innocence to us. I so much identify with what happened to you that it's an attempt of taking the innocence and making that ours. But we should not become victims. We should become victors. We should deal with life, as we already mentioned, heroically, without victim consciousness, with proper vulnerability characteristic of every hero. We all suffer, as the saying says. We all suffer, but to be a victim is a choice. Being a victim doesn't have to be with suffering. Playing the victim doesn't have to be with going through life. But of course, we live in times nowadays, Kali-Yuga, if you want to characterize it in that way. We live in times where the more victim we are, the more moral superiority we achieve, at least in the eyes of others. Kali-Yuga is generally described as the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, but we can call also Kali-Yuga as the age of victimization. So the more labels of oppression and victimhood one has accrued, the more one's views of reality is deemed to have authority, and the more one is considered to have moral worth. Nowadays, this type of thing you will find in the wokeism and this type of tendencies, postmodern waves, if you will. So we should be careful about this, because once you are too fully invested into that character, you are totally identified with your victim consciousness. When you create a self-justifying storyline, especially one like victim consciousness, your emotional entrapment within that story quadruples minimum. And again, victim consciousness is the opposite of Krishna consciousness. And this can happen to us as individuals, or by extension, this can happen to us as a movement. We can share the symptom of victim consciousness as a group, even as a sampradaya, or again, beginning from the individual. And this can be promoted. So victim consciousness, again, which is the opposite of vulnerability. Victim consciousness is about denying any personal responsibility for what happens in our lives. While vulnerability, which may be in this case another way of speaking about Krishna consciousness, vulnerability is about taking full responsibility for who we are, for the choices we are taking, or how we choose to relate to things and situations, and stop pointing outside of ourselves.